Hello and welcome back to the I Make a Difference channel. And if you're new to the channel, then brilliant to have you here. I'm Melinda, and in this video, I'm going to be delving into a really fascinating and empowering topic that will really support you in exploring how contrast is a powerful tool in discovering and reconnecting to your true self. And by the end of the video, my hope for you is that you will have gained a new perspective and a greater appreciation of how embracing and accepting what you experience in life in terms of differences and oppositions, especially in experiences, behaviors, beliefs, values, and points of view, can be a powerful tool to discovering more of who you truly are and who you're not, what's right for you and what's not right for you. But I want to start by exploring the whole idea of contrast. So just imagine a world where everything's the same color, same texture, same sound, and even same smell. And where me, you, and everyone else were very similar, if not the same, in how we behave, what we say and do, maybe how we look, and our beliefs and values. It would be somewhat interesting and maybe even monotonous, right? Because contrast is the very thing that breathes life and richness and colour into our experiences. It helps you and I distinguish between what feels good and what doesn't, what resonates with our inner truth and what doesn't, what is in alignment with our integrity and true self and what isn't. Because contrast describes and emphasises the degree of difference, all the difference between two things that are similar in nature, and it highlights how they're dissimilar and it highlights their distinct characteristics. Because at its core, contrast is when something stands out as being very different from something else that is in close proximity to it. So think about how a dark night accentuates the brilliance and the light of the stars, or how the silence of a quiet morning amplifies the sound of a single bird singing. Contrast is everywhere, and its role in our lives is more significant than we might initially realize. So that's why it's important to be aware of it and to work with it. So let's explore why contrast is so crucial in the journey of discovering your true self. And just before I do that though, I do want to acknowledge something. A lot of people are actually really uncomfortable with contrast in their lives, experiencing a difference in what they are used to and familiar with. Well, it takes people out of their comfort zones, and it does prompt them to question and reflect on what do they believe in, what do they value, and what they feel. And it's uncomfortable because it challenges us to see, hear, and feel and experience things in a different light, a light we're not used to. And this discomfort, well, it can often lead you to resist and even fight, reject and avoid contrast altogether. So let's explore why contrast is so crucial in the journey of discovering your true self. Well, one of the key reasons it's so important is that it allows us to recognize differences. And by doing so, it helps us to understand our preferences better. For example, have you ever been in a job that you just, inside it, did not feel right, only to find one later on that made you excited to get up every morning? That stark contrast between feeling and drained to feeling energized and excited helps you identify what you truly enjoy and where your passions lie. A scenario that always has stood out in my mind in this area is a lady I met who was in an abusive relationship. And over time, she came to believe that the treatment she received was a form of love. And she then woke up at a level and she finally left that relationship and entered into a relationship where she was treated with so much kindness, love and respect. The stark contrast between the two experiences was overwhelming for her. And It was so removed from what she had experienced that she struggled with it. But despite the healthier environment, she actually found it difficult to handle the unfamiliar kindness. She didn't know how to receive it, how to respond to it, because it was foreign to her. In fact, she ended up returning to what was familiar to her, the abusive relationship. How contrast works in this situation is that this is the process of acceptance conditioning. She accepted the abuse and it became her normalization and it became familiar to her. The abuse became her normal. In an abusive relationship, destructive behaviors, criticism, manipulation, and even violence can become normalized for many people. And over time, they can even start to think that this is what love looks like, especially if you don't have other points of reference. Shock and overwhelm to the kindness contrast, which was unfamiliar and yet natural, can result in really impacting you. So when you leave the abusive relationship and find yourself in a healthy, loving relationship, the kindness contrast and naturalness of this can be so stark that it feels shocking and overwhelming. We all know kindness, respect, and genuine care is natural and what we deserve, but it can feel foreign and uncomfortable because they're so different from what a person who's been abused has become accustomed to. We have a discomfort, vulnerability, and even suspicion with the unfamiliar. And this self-worth honouring treatment, though deeply desired, the kindness and the respect, can trigger discomfort because it's an unknown experience. This can trigger vulnerability and lack of trust of it being real and sustainable, let alone the person believing they deserve this kindness and love. Their lack of self-worth has a big influence on them. Human beings will then revert to what's familiar, even if it's harmful, because familiarity can feel safe and more predictable. You know what's coming, so you can deal with it and you can deal with yourself before it happens. The contrast can create an internal conflict, known as cognitive dissonance, holding two conflicting parts of yourself where one believes one thing and you know another, or where you experience a disconnect between reality and perception. On one hand, you recognize that the new kind treatment is better for you and it's what's right for you. But on the other hand, it doesn't align with your internalized beliefs about love and self-worth, which have been shaped by your past and the abusive relationship. And for the person who shared their story with me, well, they were conditioned to believe that abuse was part of the process of love, and they were only worth the scraps of love they received in amongst the abuse. But even with the discomfort and overwhelm, this contrast, well, it provides you with a unique opportunity for growth and healing. It's about coming to terms with kind and loving treatment, and this type of treatment can help reshape your understanding of love and self-worth over time. Self-reflection and support then can facilitate the transition from the abusive to the kind relationship, where people can reinforce the new for you. They can reinforce positive experiences and help you unlearn the conditioning of the harmful patterns you've taken on board from the past. It's common for us to accept what isn't right for us, simply because we haven't known or experienced something better or different. When we're surrounded by judgment and others' lack of self-worth and lack of support, can be really hard to see beyond that. And here's another layer to this issue. Even when we do recognize what isn't right for us, well, speaking up about it can be a real challenge if we don't have people around us who we trust and will support us and have our back. This fear of not being backed up or facing punishment or judgment, well, it keeps our mouth shut and keeps us silent, and we put up and shut up. But then something amazing happens. When we finally experience a contrast, when we encounter what is right for us, something that is good and positive, led by someone trustworthy and ethical, the paradigm shifts. We start to see the beauty of contrast. I worked with a young man who sadly his father raised him with messages that women were only good for one thing and that they were unworthy. When he met a beautiful woman who became his partner in his early 20s, well, he opened up to the relationship and he discovered a completely different world. He grew his love, valuing, honouring, and his respect of women. In fact, he grew very protective of women. What it also left him with, though, was a lot of anger and hate towards his father for what he'd said and conditioned him with. And when a stranger made a derogatory comment about a woman, it triggered this anger and hate. And the man who made the derogatory comment was lucky to be alive. So contrast can trigger the suppressed emotions and processing that came with the conditioning of what was once familiar to us. And this provides us with the indicators of what requires unraveling and healing within us. Unraveling and healing so that we can be fully in our truth, connected to our true self, and living in alignment with what is true for us. The beauty of the good, amazing, wonderful, kind experiences we have, and the people who reflect and express that in our life, well, they help us to discover the beautiful parts of us. And new supportive environments where leaders take ownership and do the right thing, well, it shines brightly against the darkness that we've known. I experienced this when I stayed with a family that was full of love and support, and they just got on so beautifully, which was in stark contrast to my family, where I experienced violence, fighting and disconnection. I believed my way of upbringing was what was normal for everyone until I saw and experienced that this was not the case. The contrast opened my eyes and beliefs to what was possible, but it also surfaced the hurt. Think about nature. The beauty of a sunrise is amplified after the dark night. The refreshing coolness of water feels even more soothing after a long hot day. It's this contrast that shows us, but it also helps us to appreciate the value of what is right, true, and good. Contrast and duality aren't just personal, they're historical. Because look at the number of people throughout history who have experienced the bad, but they've fought for the good, and it made their fight even more powerful. Contrast also plays a vital role in making you aware of who you truly are and who you're not, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Sometimes it's the things that don't resonate with you that shine a light on what does resonate with you. When you step into environments or relationships that can be uncomfortable and hard and they don't feel right, that don't align with your core values, and the discomfort you feel, well, it's a guide pointing you towards choices that are right and true for you. Think about it in terms of your daily life choices. When you meet new people, you recognize where you have a connect and where you don't. This doesn't make you or the other people wrong or inadequate in any way. It's a step toward discovering who and what is truly right for you in relationships, interactions, and connections that engage you. And each no gets you closer to a powerful yes when you're open to it. Let's not forget experiencing challenging or uncomfortable situations and experiences. Well, they lead to immense personal growth if that's what you choose to embrace from them. Have you ever felt like you were stuck in a rut? Only to later look back and realize, wow, look at how much learning you went through and got from that tough period. This is because navigating through adversity often reveals strengths and areas for growth that you didn't know you had. Embracing these contrasts, while it provides deep insights into your own resilience, your own capabilities, and the qualities and attributes that make you you. When I made the painful and really heartbreaking choice to put my businesses into liquidation, it wasn't until I was on the other side of the experience that I realised what relief I had and how glad I was that I made the decision. It wasn't until I experienced a totally different situation that I was able to see how stressed, overwhelmed, and beaten up I was feeling, that I had not recognised or admitted when I was in my businesses. Contrast also helps you strengthen your self-worth. Knowing what you don't deserve or will no longer accept in your life empowers you to make different choices in terms of what you do deserve. This awareness of your worth and deservedness, well, it reflects your self-respect and self-care. When you've identified what is unacceptable and that you are undeserving of, well, you're better equipped to seek out and receive what you do deserve in terms of interactions, environments, and relationships. And what you do deserve that is more aligned to your true self and your self-worth. In my own life, identifying what was diminishing my self-worth, that was not honouring me, that I no longer deserved, was really powerful. For example, I used to put others first all the time. I would rescue them and look after their emotional state and even their financial state and needs ahead of my own and at my expense. It was only by recognising the stress it was causing me and me even admitting, well, this is at my own expense in so many ways, not just financially, that I started to cease doing this. And instead I started prioritising my own needs. Experiencing contrast, well, it also heightens your appreciation for self-worth honouring experiences. So things that are good and valuing of you. And after dealing with something that's not right for you, encountering what is right, that feels right, is even more rewarding. It's like savouring a delicious meal after a day of fasting. You appreciate it at a whole different level. For instance, many of the participants who attended our training sessions in my business, they just loved, valued, and wanted to attend our trainings, which was unusual for a lot of the training companies in our area. And the reason they shared was because of the quality of delivery and content, but even more so, how welcoming, inviting, professional yet informal we were, and the space we offered that was so welcoming. They were used to being treated like a number, being there for the organisation to make money with little to no care of them. And the content did not offer a lot of value for them. So the contrast was what influenced them in appreciating our training over that of the ones that I experienced previously. When you experience clear contrast, well, your decision-making process becomes more informed, more empowered, and more aligned to what's right for you. You're less likely to settle for mediocrity and what you don't deserve, because you have a clear understanding of what resonates with your true self. And each contrasting experience, well, it adds another layer of clarity to your decision-making process. So the more you can embrace those contrasting experiences, the more you are clear and the more you grow and evolve. I remember a time when I was offered 3 jobs in one day. One offered me the most amount of money and was with a great company. Another offered me the work that excited me the most, but potentially would not be full-time. And the third offered the least amount of money, but an opportunity to experience a role that would give me a great foundation to operate from. Reflecting on my past experiences of what didn't work for me, well, it made my decision much clearer. Finally, beneficial contrasts help you develop your trust and your confidence in yourself. When you can listen to your gut feeling, or your knowing as I call it, which is the voice of your soul, and you act on it, and it works out as you knew it would, as opposed to listening to yourself talk, a voice that sends you down a different path with results and outcomes you generally don't deserve, well, your knowing won't do that for you. And so what happens is you strengthen your belief in your knowing and your choices, which is essential for your personal growth and you reconnecting to your true self. So how do we apply all of this in our lives? Well, firstly, recognize and acknowledge when something doesn't feel right. Don't be afraid to trust your gut feelings. Trust your knowing. Those are invaluable signals. And if you make a decision on emotion or intellect, then potentially you're making decisions on the past and that self-talk and what is familiar to you, not what is right for you. Your gut feeling, your knowing, will always make decisions that are right for you because it's coming from the pure and good part of you, your true self. Secondly, seek out what does feel good and right for you. Jump in and make decisions to follow through on that. And this can take some time and experimentation to get to that point, but each step is a step closer to your true self. Thirdly, surround yourself with supportive people who will back you up. It is important, and it's also an opportunity to have an experience of having a network of people around you that encourage you to follow what's right for you and not step back into what's familiar for you. Remember, contrast helps you identify the beauty and value of what is right. And once you've experienced this contrast, well, guess what? You'll never settle for anything less. There is a light within you that will illuminate the contrast, a light that is guiding you back to who you truly are. See what it's showing you. Hear what it is saying to you, what your knowing is saying to you, and discover what is true and right for you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'd love to hear about your own experiences with contrast and self-discovery. So please do leave a comment below. And until next time, stay true to yourself. Keep embracing the beauty of contrast and work with it for your benefit to discover more of what's right for you and what's not right for you, what's not the true you and what is the true you. Utilize it and work with it to be you.